2023, I saw an ad by Globetrotters offering an 8-day trail ride in New Zealand. Bells and whistles went off. I had not been on a trail ride since I was in my 20s, and I had fond memories of it, and I just had to go. And I'd always wanted to see New Zealand, so I signed on. I was staying in Topor, and a van driven by Brian came to pick us all up to make the 2.5-hour drive out to the River Valley Lodge. While I was on the van, I met some of the other women I was going to be traveling with. I found out we had quite an international group. Some were from Denmark, British Columbia, Australia, and of course, New Zealand. Some of them had their own horses and rode a lot. Some rode a lot but didn't have their own horses. Some were self-taught and hadn't had any formal lessons. And then there was me, kind of in the middle. I rode periodically. I'd had lots of lessons. So we all qualified as intermediate riders, which you had to be on this trail ride. Nicola McGaw, Brian, her husband, and her daughter, Janie Harrison, ran the lodge. The ranch is a 5th-generation family-owned lodge that sits on the wild Rangitikei River.
My name is Tamsin and I'm from New Zealand.
And what made you want to come on this trip, Tamsin?
So that I could spend some time on horses.
I escaped from Putin. My name is Anastasia and I come from Russia and I escaped from Putin's regime.
Okay, thank you. Now, why did you decide to escape and come on this trip?
I think I've just lived in captivity for so long that I wanted to try some freedom, and this is like the ultimate freedom ride. Yeah.
Painless. Okay.
Be natural. Be natural.
What are you doing here in Sasha?
I am here to experience life. Thought everyone would love my curls, but only 3 people has complimented them.
I like your curls.
Thank you, there you go. Now my life's complete.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
We're also fortunate to have Katie, a trail manager, be the second guide. She'd spent her whole life around horses and had great skills in coaxing my horse, Ranger, into doing things I could not.
Good fun, you get to ride horses all day in beautiful countryside.
When we arrived at the ranch, we settled into our rooms before meeting our horses. My roommate's name was Mel, a Kiwi, that's what they call New Zealand natives, and we got along great. We settled into our rooms and began to experience the calming, comfortable influence of the rustic ranch and its friendly staff. We enjoyed our first fab meal in the dining room. Miranda was the cook that night.
Every single thing you say there, and there's more of everything.
And we knew from that first dinner that we were in for a week of gastronomic heaven. We were riding Australian saddles, which I'd never done before. But just to be on the safe side, since we were going to be in the saddle 4 to 6 hours a day, I bought an extra saddle pad just to make sure. But I was glad to discover that Australian saddles are pretty comfortable. The riding style here was natural riding. Rather than using a bit and reins to stay, quote, in touch with the horse's mouth, unquote, through the reins for constant control, as I'd learned in the States, these horses were trained on rope halters, which meant most of the decisions about exactly how to walk the terrain were the horses. We learned to trust them and speak up with our hands only when a change in direction and speed was needed. The 2 afternoon hours that first day were used to gear up, get acquainted with our horses, and learn about the agenda for the next few days. We practiced the new techniques under Nicola and Katie's able direction, planning to head out for the full day. Each day began with everyone heading out to catch, groom, saddle, and feed the horses, and ended with a good rinse-off for the horse and the riders. In our rides, We saw many herds of sheep and cows, as well as deer. Our horses had fun stretching and rolling as we hit the showers before dinner.
Food is coming.
At the end of the first day, when it came to working the stiffness out of our joints and muscles, favorite yoga poses and other techniques were shared, along with much laughter and groans.
What did you say? Just pick my dance.
During the week, we explored the big hills, open country, and patches of native bush throughout local farmlands, crossing 7 private properties. I marveled at the horses' sure-footedness, even on steep hills and narrow trails. In New Zealand, there are also herds of wild horses. These horses were introduced to New Zealand in 1814. They were for cavalry, farming, and to help European settlers. They were often called and ended up as dog food, but in 2014, advocates got together and created the Wild Stallion Challenge in order to show people that they could be trained and domesticated. More on that later. One evening, we celebrated Mel's 50th birthday.
Mate, I can always turn around. Yeah, just as the horses will have to get through.
I know my riding instructor has tried to get access to nearby farms to ride on, and so has a friend of mine, and a lot of people say no.
One breakfast in preparation for a visit to the Maori farm, Hazel, our cook on the trail and a Maori herself, taught us the song used in accepting the welcome of the Maori to their land.
So Kōwhiri is a welcoming ceremony. So what sort of happens, us, the manuhiri or the visitors, get welcomed on by the tangata whenua, the people of the land. So we get welcomed on by a karanga. So karanga is a calling. So we get welcomed on by one of the local ladies, and my job as part of the visitors is I respond to that call. So we get welcomed on by a lovely call and I respond to that. We all get sat down. And then we go through a process of speeches and songs. So the tangata whenua would do a speech first. He'll welcome us onto the land and welcome us onto the marae and introduce himself and his whānau that he is with. And then they'll sing us a song. And usually they sing a song about their ancestry or something about their land or something that's special to them. And then Brian, who is Nicola's husband, who takes the trick for us, he will do a speech on behalf of the manuhiri, or us visitors, and he will do the same thing, saying thank you for letting us stay here and introduce who we are and everything like that. And then we get to do our little waiata, e hare te mea, and we will do that to them to show us thank you and show us what's special to us. And then we get to go over and greet them. And the one thing I love about the Kōwhiri process is that it always ends with a very good kai, which is food.
We slept that night on the mattresses spread out on the floor in the marae, as Maori do while holding a funeral there, to keep the departed company until burial. The walls were lined with pictures of many ancestors who had passed that way. I could feel the spirit's presence in this place of rest. At one day's end, we took a refreshing dip in the Rangatiki River.
Whoops. I'm I'm coming, I'm coming.
That night, some of us slept in tents in the yard, others in the farmhouse, always to wake up the next morning to a great breakfast. The cots were comfortable and the hot water bottles were appreciated too. We stayed in the high country while riding through private farms. It was natural to feel small in comparison to this wonderful expanse of green hills. As we continued through the high country farmlands, we had lots of opportunities to pick up the pace. With wind blowing through our hair, there is no freer feeling than to gallop up a hill on a powerful horse, catching our breath at the top. Our horses crossed the Rangatiki River multiple times en route to Trailride Lodge, our destination, the last night on the trail. I was glad the horses navigated the crossings with their unshod hooves, and even they seemed more cautious than usual. The river bottom was covered with round, small, and medium-sized rocks that would have been guaranteed ankle twisters for a mere human. What a beautiful place was Trailride Lodge. It was the last place we stayed prior to returning to the River Valley Lodge. The lodge is based high on the cliffs of the Rangatiki River and gave us stunning views into the river canyon. Inside it was a natural gathering place for the group. Nicola asked who wanted to swim bareback in the river, and that was just too good to pass up. It took 5 tries to get Ranger in the swimming mode, but returning to the lodge for our last night, we were treated to heki, which is a traditional Maori feast. Our cook, Tommy Wara, was also one of the original participants in the Wild Stallion Challenge. Since the cooking took all day, he was able to fit in this interview about that experience.
You know, try and save the horses, and drew a number out of the hat. So you didn't know what you were getting.
Yes.
And yeah, and so that's how it was. And you got these horses turned up at your house, and your job was to see if they could be trained to ride. So instead of you know, just trying to grab hold of them and trying to bring them into your world, what I did was wait till they let me into their world. And then we started. Yeah, because a couple of times, you know, I'd be doing this, doing that, and then the horse, he'd come at me, and then I'd just say, oh, shit, sorry. And the stallions were always getting slaughtered. They'd send them off to get killed. And when they did the musters, and when we had the stallion challenge, no horses have been put down since then.
That night, after the delicious dinner, Jamie offered more opportunities for fun and adventure for the following morning before our lunchtime departure back to Topor. Several chose rafting down the river.
What would you want people to know about New Zealand before they come?
Oh, well, it's really, really beautiful. So come with your eyes open and your ears open to all the nature around you, and bring plenty of sun cream because the sun is fierce as a fellow pale person.